It's 2000. It's 2000. Yeah. I hit 2,000 subscribers yesterday, which is interesting to me. The notion that today I got a little text message from, I feel like I should turn on the light better if I'm going to be doing a special fucking program based in thanks, gratitude, and a shit eating grin. Ah, there. I got a letter from YouTube today with a little trophy next to it. I didn't have my glasses, so I don't know if the trophy is anything special or not. It might not have my name on it, but I got this thing from them. I feel like I guess I should probably make it better. The lighting, you know, we're just here in southern Michigan and the light is just waning. So there was some really good quality of light. You look up there, you can see what it looks like. I thought maybe I'd play it in that, but it's getting dark. Give me a second. I gotta climb up here. Ah, ah, ah. My YouTube, they sent me a letter and they said, congratulations, you've got 2,000 subscribers. That means people like you. I'm like, oh boy, if you're so sure about that, why did you wait a day to tell me that I got 2,000 subscribers? Because it's, YouTube, that people subscribe to my channel because there's something for everyone to hate. They find the video that they saw that was really something that they felt akin to. And then the next one, they're like, what the fuck is this? And they go out of their way to unsubscribe. I've probably got 70,000 subscribers by now. But if you count those that backed out, I'm down to 2,000. So they waited like 24 hours to say, hey, congratulations. They're like, I don't want to give them the good news yet. But it did make me think of something yesterday when I saw that I was up to 2,000. And I told Victoria, I said, you know, now that we're in the 1900s, I should be telling stories about things that I've done. I mean, like, remember, we could start with a notion like this, something that happened just last week, the week before. I got a call from another old friend, like another old friend's wife, who happens to be a friend before the friend became friends with a friend who I knew the friend, and then the wife, we knew each other from our interactions. There was never any sex. There was never anything like that. I'm just saying we knew each other because we were part of the same community of people. Why has everybody got to make it so dirty all the time? She had called me and she said, where are you? What are you doing? And I said, I'm in a garage. And I was only about 2 to 7 miles from where she was at the time, but she didn't know which garage I was in. And she said, I'm going to ask you a question. I only want an answer. Oh, I don't mean to make a big conversation out of it. I'm like, yeah. She said, did you fuck a man in Vietnam and then break his neck? And I was like, what the fuck are you? And I know this story because it's a joke I made and I had to explain to her. The what the fuck was, you believe that? That's a joke I use sometimes. It was built as a joke, that story. I was sitting in a VFW hall in about 1991 or two, and all these old VFW guys are telling stories, and there were a couple of Vietnam vets, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, and I decided I was going to make a joke. I'm going to have to put this in the playlist. It's called Polish Jokes. In there are some of the jokes that I make up on my own that I know somebody's going to steal. I know this because George Carlin did it to me when I was on the radio at 90.5 FM KSJS San Jose. I know it because within weeks of me saying things on the radio, and I know he didn't steal it, but he told my same fucking joke. I'm like, son of a bitch, when I saw him in person, he tells this joke. And I'm like, fucking guy. And it was just a joke to myself to say he's stealing my fucking material because I know he didn't get it from me. But you know, we're somewhere in the ether. Everyone is connected. You have to be quick when you're telling your jokes. I'm glad I got mine out before I saw him do it, you know? That's the only saving grace, is that sometimes we do have evidence that shows, even though we may not be the only one saying this thing, we are the first that we know of. But in this VFW hall meeting, when they close the Bible and people tell jokes, afterwards they open it and they say a prayer and the meeting's over. But they close the Bible to just talk realistically outside of the eyes of God. And I sat there and I thought, gosh, how many times people have asked, you were in Vietnam by mistake? I'm like, how could I possibly? It still happens. People think I was in Vietnam. And I just sat there and I thought, I said, boy, I should really like to go on vacation to Vietnam. I made up a joke about a vacation. The joke I made in my mind that I never told, I wanted to say, I remember that guy I killed in Vietnam. And they're like, uh, and the joke is I was supposed to go to Vietnam on vacation and lure a man out of the bar like Jeffrey Dahmer. And in the alley where he thought we were going to have something, I was going to fucking kill him. That's the joke that they heard that I told to my friends. But it amounted from the idea of being able to say, you know, I remember that guy I killed in Vietnam, and people would say, you were fighting in Vietnam? They're shocked at how young I was to do it. And I'd say, no, I was on vacation. That's the joke. Ta-da. Took a lot of explaining, but I wasn't telling the joke. I was explaining it. And so I told that joke with these friends, and for that would have been 2019, maybe 18. Now, 7 years later, I get asked, is it true you fucked a guy in an alley in Vietnam and broke his neck? They were concerned. And I'm like, no. So there's one of those stories that I could told from when I was at 19. Oh, geez, I don't know. We're losing track of time. I guess it would have been later. The funny thing about that is that these people have known me all this time and wondering if that was a real story. See, there was a little bit of the telephone game too. I never talked about fucking anybody. I never talked about breaking anybody's neck. I just lured a guy out with the idea that we were going to have relations, and then I killed him. I didn't say anything about breaking his neck. That's not part of the joke. But people see how I do things, I suppose. That's how they would see me doing it. Why would they want me to break somebody's neck? Because they probably think it would make me feel better. That's not what I did. It's not what I told them to do. It's how they see another person that they think they know. Yet they were still good enough to hang out with me and go out into the rivers every year. What that says to me is that I'm not such a bad guy if I like you. So I thought about with this 2000 thing, I'm like, leading up to it, I meant to be telling stories like 1987 or 1987 subscribers. Oh, yeah, 1987, 2 months in the summer at basic training, I grew 2 inches and put on 15 pounds. And shortly thereafter, lost my virginity. Not in basic training, after. Now, I could tell stories about 1991 subscribers, living in a hole and things like that. I could tell stories about 1997 being held in captivity at the Ministry of the Border Patrol in the Ukraine because they thought I was a spy and I was in a cinder block fucking interrogation cell that I got myself out of. I could tell that story. And then 1998 comes. Oh, that's when I started smoking. Smoke 'em if you got 'em. All right. That's my Axl Rose impression. 1998, the year I started smoking. And why? Step Progression Voluntas. That's German. I think let my will stand for a reason. Which before I ever learned that phrase, I had this little philosophical mindset for myself. Nothing without a reason. Because I don't think about just one thing. The way I started smoking cigarettes is not, I'm going to smoke because of that. To be cool is the furthest thing from the truth. So if that's the one you picked, you're wrong. You don't act cool, you be cool. And so many different reasons I started smoking. And one of them I failed on. I was supposed to be able to quit. All you kids out there watching and thinking how cool I am, don't you start smoking to be like me. There's nothing cool about smoking. It's just expensive. And then 1999, well, whatever you're going to do there, I hope you enjoyed it. But here we hit 2000. subscribers. So I'll tell the story of the year 2000. It was the Y2K was coming up in 1999. Everybody's like, oh no, everything's going to shut down because they kind of made a glitch with the computers and it's not going to roll over and everything's going to shut down. Credit cards are going to get shut out. And I'm saying on the radio, go get a credit card, max it out if it's crashing. But don't trust me because I don't believe that anything's going to happen with Y2K. Because if it was that much of a national emergency, they'd be taking kids out of universities. They'd be fucking doing indentured servitude for their fucking scholarships. All these kids that were into computers and everything at the time, they should have been able to put them to work and find the solution if it was going to happen. But they act like it couldn't, and they didn't even try. And then the year 2000 hits. Oh, 1999 to 2000. I go to my boss's house for a fucking uh, New Year's Eve party. And I'm there with him, and he was an older gentleman, 15 years older than me, and all his friends that are lawyers and such. Some of them were part of the Jerry Tobias case that went so problematic out of Gaylord, Michigan, with Judge Hayes, and Inside Edition got involved with all these people. And then I went to another house where my brother was, my oldest brother, the one that I love, the one that loves me, and his best friend, who I've known for years, and we're at a party there. And his wife is there, the best friend's wife, because that's where they live. And then I wake up in the morning on the floor of my boss's house, and I don't know how I got there. The truck was in the yard. I'm like one block away from the police station, one city police, one block away. I had to go by the state cop shop. I must have just fucking levitated from that house to that, because at some point they had the tequila out, and I remember thinking, I got to get out of here. And I woke up there and I was like, what the fuck? And so I go walking out. I'm on the floor in my boss's house. I walk out, get in my other brother's truck because he let me borrow it. And I drove to Mary's Tavern, and I'm pretty sure I was still loaded. Can't be sure, but pretty sure. And I drove to Mary's Tavern a couple blocks away on the way to my parents' house where I was staying at the time. I was in town. And the barmaid, it was open. So I went in and I just sat down, and I felt like such a wreck that I said to the barmaid, one bourbon, one scotch, and one beer, or however that damn George Thorogood song goes, and one bourbon, one gin, one scotch, one beer. I don't know. I put it on the jukebox, and I sat there and drank a couple of rounds of that because I was just like, oh my God. And during that time, it was just she and I, the barmaid and me. She and me. And she looked at me. She said, remember hitting on me last night? I said, because I looked at her and I said, you look familiar. And she says, do you remember hitting on me last night, Archie? And I said, she said, I'm Paul's wife. And I'd been attracted to this woman for years, and I only see her every few years. So every few years I'd look at her and go, I'm very attracted to you. And it turns out that it was my brother's friend's wife that was serving me one bourbon, one scotch, and beer for a couple of rounds. And then I made my way home. Oh, and then I decided, this is the point of the story. they said everything's going to shut down at the Y2K. At one point, I said, I'm going to play a game of darts. There was an electronic dart board there. I never believed Y2K was ever going to shut anything down. And I went to the board, grabbed the darts, and I said, it's off. She said, it hasn't been working all morning. I tried to turn on. No, this computerized dart board is the only thing I saw in the year 2000 Y2K that shut down. You want to start a riot? Kill all the games in the bars. That gets the MAGA people going wild. The year 2000. And I went home after that and I walked into my parents' house and I puked in the toilet and it was a gout of blood. And I said, well, I guess that's that. And here it is. 2,000 subscribers. YouTube congratulated me, and I congratulate you for being here because you are the most important part of the Judas resurrection, and I love you.